Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is NURDANIA, and today I will be taking you on a cinematic journey through the world of organizational behavior using one of Netflix's most explosive action films, Extraction 2, released in 2023. At first glance, Extraction 2 looks like a high-octane action movie. But if we look carefully through the lens of OB theory, we begin to see something deeper. A story about leadership under pressure, high-stakes decision-making, team dynamics in the field, and the ethics of mercenary work. By the end of this presentation, I hope to show you that organizational behavior is not just a classroom concept. It is alive and visible in every human environment, even in the most extreme and dramatic ones.
Let me begin with a brief overview of what this presentation covers. Extraction 2 follows Tyler Rake, a battle-hardened Australian mercenary played by Chris Hemsworth, who is recruited for what appears to be a near-impossible mission: extracting the imprisoned family of a ruthless Georgian crime lord from one of the most dangerous prisons in the world. Through this film, we will analyze 5 core organizational behavior concepts: personality, perception, decision-making, values and ethics, and team dynamics. We will then close with actionable recommendations for managers, HR professionals, and government policymakers, drawing real-world lessons from the fictional narrative. Extraction 2, directed by Sam Hargrave and written by Joe Russo, was released on Netflix on June 16, 2023. It is the sequel to the 2020 film Extraction, which became one of Netflix's most watched original films of all time. The story centers on Tyler Rake, a former Special Air Service Regiment operator from Australia who transitioned into freelance mercenary work after personal tragedy. Having lost his young son to lymphoma while deployed overseas, and following a painful divorce, Rake became a man who lives for the mission, using his work as an escape from grief and guilt. In Extraction 2, Rake is recruited by a mysterious handler named Alcott, played by Idris Elba, for a mission with deeply personal stakes: rescuing the family of his ex-wife's sister from a Georgian prison controlled by a brutal crime syndicate. Before we dive into the OB analysis, let us map the key characters to their organizational roles. First, we got Tyler Rake, who is the operational leader and primary executor, equivalent to a high-performance team leader or special ops project manager. Next is Nick Khan, who is played by Golshifteh Farahani, Rake's field partner and operational coordinator. She represents the trusted second-in-command or operations manager. And Yaz, which played by Adam Bessa, is Nick's younger brother and team member, represents the junior team operative, motivated by loyalty rather than professional experience. Alcott is the senior handler and mission authority, equivalent to a C-level executive or external organizational sponsor. Last but not least is Zurab, the primary antagonist, the Georgian crime lord who represents the competing organization. His command structure mirrors a coercive, power-based management style. With these characters in mind, let us now begin the OB analysis. Our first OB concept is personality. According to Robbins and Judge in Organizational Behavior, 18th edition, personality refers to the sum total of ways in which an individual reacts to and interacts with others. A relatively stable set of traits that shape behavior across situations. The most widely accepted framework for studying personality in OB is the Big Five model, also known as OCEAN: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Now let us apply this to Tyler Rake. Openness to experience, moderate to high. Rake is willing to adapt his tactics in real time, whether switching from assault to stealth or improvising with available tools. He accepts new and dangerous missions, suggesting comfort with ambiguity. Conscientiousness, extremely high. Rake is meticulous in his mission planning and execution. He maintains discipline under fire, follows through on commitments regardless of personal cost, and does not abandon his team. Extroversion, low to moderate. Rake is not a gregarious, outward-facing leader. He is reserved, introspective, and leads by example rather than by motivation or speech, a classic introvert in a leadership role. Agreeableness, low. Rake is direct, abrasive, and unwilling to compromise on mission objectives. He does not prioritize social harmony, which creates friction but also decisive action. Neuroticism, Emotional stability. Initially high, Rake is haunted by the death of his son and operates from a place of unresolved grief. However, as the film progresses and he reconnects with his ex-wife Mia, his emotional stability begins to improve. Why does personality matter in organizations? In high-stakes industries, such as the military, emergency services, security consulting, and even corporate crisis management, personality profiling is used extensively during recruitment and team formation. Research shows that conscientiousness is the single most consistent predictor of job performance across all occupations. Rake's exceptional conscientiousness explains his outstanding effectiveness, even in chaotic, unstructured environments. However, his low agreeableness and high neuroticism also highlight a critical OB lesson. Even high performers carry emotional wounds that, if unaddressed, become organizational liabilities. In a corporate setting, this translates to employees who are technically brilliant but interpersonally difficult, often called the brilliant jerk problem in HR literature. The lesson here for organizations is that personality role fit matters enormously. You need to identify not just competence, but also emotional fit and psychological resilience, especially in high-pressure roles. Our second OB concept is perception. Robbins and Judge define perception as a process by which individuals organize and interpret their sensory impressions in order to give meaning to their environment. Importantly, our perception does not always match reality, and this gap can have serious organizational consequences. In Extraction 2, perception errors drive some of the most critical failures and successes of the mission. Consider attribution theory, the framework we use to explain why others behave as they do. When Rake arrives on the mission, the Georgian prison guards perceive him as just another outside threat, underestimating his tactical capability. This is a classic case of the fundamental attribution error. They attribute his behavior to external factors and fail to account for the stable, trained dispositional traits that make him extraordinarily dangerous. On the flip side, Rake's own perception of Yaz, Nick's younger brother, evolves across the film. Initially, Rake sees Yaz as a liability, a junior team member who might slow the mission. This is the halo effect in reverse, a negative first impression that clouds objective assessment. Over time, as Yaz demonstrates courage and competence, Rake revises his perception towards him. Perceptual biases in the workplace have very real consequences. Selective perception, stereotyping, the halo effect, and attribution errors influence hiring decisions, performance appraisals, and team dynamics every day. For example, a Malaysian manager who has a preconceived stereotype about a job candidate's background, perhaps based on race, gender, or university attended, is committing the same cognitive error as the Georgian guards underestimating Rake. The result? Poor hiring decisions, talent loss, and organizational underperformance. OB teaches us that overcoming perceptual bias requires structured, criteria-based evaluation systems, where judgments are based on observable, job-relevant behavior rather than gut feelings or first impressions. Our third concept is decision-making. Classical OB theory presents us with the rational decision-making model, a six-step process in which the decision-maker defines the problem, identifies criteria, weights those criteria, generates alternatives, evaluates them, and selects the optimal solution. However, Robbins and Judge also introduce the concept of bounded rationality, which acknowledges that in the real world, human beings rarely have perfect information, unlimited time, or unlimited cognitive capacity. Instead, we choose the first option that is good enough, rather than the theoretically optimal one. In Extraction 2, Tyler Rake's decision-making is a masterclass in bounded rationality under extreme time pressure. During the infamous prison break sequence, a breathtaking 21-minute single-take action scene, Rake makes dozens of life-or-death decisions in seconds, with incomplete information, in a rapidly changing environment. His decisions are not always theoretically optimal. He takes routes that expose the team, makes tactical compromises to protect the children, and accepts personal risk to preserve team cohesion. These are satisficing decisions, the best possible given the constraints. What can Malaysian organizations learn from RAIC's decision-making under fire? In crisis scenarios, whether a product recall, a public relations disaster, or an operational emergency, decision-makers rarely have the luxury of perfect information or extended deliberation time. Bounded rationality is not a failure of leadership. It is the normal condition of organizational decision-making. The key OB lesson is that organizations should invest in pre-decision frameworks, structured decision protocols, crisis response playbooks, and tabletop simulations, so that when the real crisis comes, decision-makers are not starting from scratch. They are executing practiced, satisficed responses. In Malaysia's context, think about how the government responded to the COVID-19 pandemic, or how petrochemical companies handle offshore platform emergencies. The speed and quality of those decisions depended on how well leaders had practiced bounded rationality in advance. Our fourth OB concept is values and ethics. Robbins and Judge define values as basic convictions about what is right or desirable. Values influence our attitudes, perceptions, and ultimately our behavior. They serve as the compass by which individuals and organizations navigate difficult decisions. Extraction 2 places its characters in an almost continuous state of ethical tension. Tyler Rake is a mercenary, a professional soldier for hire operating outside formal legal or institutional frameworks. His work raises several fundamental ethical questions. Is it ethical to rescue one family while knowingly triggering mass violence for others? Does personal loyalty to his ex-wife, to Nick, to Yaz, justify the collateral harm caused? Who holds accountability when private operators carry out state-adjacent violence with no official oversight? From the perspective of REST's four-component model of ethical decision-making, Rake demonstrates strong moral sensitivity. He is aware of the ethical dimensions of his choices and moral motivation. He genuinely cares about the family he is rescuing. However, his moral judgment is frequently compromised by mission exigency, and his moral character, his follow-through, is tested at every turn. The ethical challenges of Extraction 2 mirror challenges faced by real organizations every day. Consider the concept of moral intensity, the degree to which a decision-maker perceives the ethical significance of a situation. Robbins and Judge identify 6 components of moral intensity, including magnitude of consequences, probability of harm, and proximity to the victim. In corporate Malaysia, ethical dilemmas often arise in procurement and contracting, particularly when companies operate in environments with weak institutional oversight. The 1MDB scandal is perhaps the most prominent example, a situation where key decision-makers either ignored or actively suppressed moral sensitivity in favor of financial gain. Extraction 2 shows us that values alignment between individual team members and organizational purpose is not optional. It is a survival requirement. Rake's team operates effectively because they share a common ethical code. Protect the innocent, do not leave a colleague behind, and accept personal sacrifice for mission success. When team members in organizations share aligned values, performance improves, trust deepens, and unethical behavior becomes culturally unacceptable. Our fifth and final OB concept is team dynamics. According to Robbins and Judge, a team is a group whose individual efforts result in a performance that is greater than the sum of individual inputs, a concept known as positive synergy. The Extraction team in the film is a textbook example of what OB theory calls a cross-functional task force, a temporary goal-oriented group assembled specifically for a single time-bound mission. This mirrors how project teams, M&A deal teams, product launch teams, and incident response units operate in modern organizations. Gersich's punctuated equilibrium model of group development is particularly relevant here. Rather than moving through the linear stages of Tuckman's model, forming, storming, norming, performing, the Extraction team immediately enters a high-performance state, driven by the urgency of their deadline. The midpoint of their mission serves as a crisis catalyst, the moment the original plan collapses and the team must restructure on the fly. This mirrors real project team behavior. Teams that have worked together before, or teams under extreme time pressure, often skip the early developmental stages and move directly to high-output performance, for better or worse. Two more critical dynamics are visible in the extraction team: trust and conflict management. The team's effectiveness is built on swift trust, a phenomenon identified in OB research on temporary teams, where members rapidly develop interpersonal trust based on professional competence rather than personal history. Rake trusts Nick not because of years of friendship, but because she has consistently demonstrated operational excellence. Similarly, Nick trusts Rake's judgment under fire even when she disagrees with his approach. We also see constructive task conflict between Rake and Nick, particularly around risk tolerance and resource allocation. Rather than being destructive, this conflict improves decision quality. Nick's questions force Rake to articulate and justify his choices, reducing the probability of unilateral errors. Contrast this with the tragic arc of Yaz, whose death results partly from being placed in a role that exceeded his readiness level. This is a critical team management lesson. Matching team members to roles commensurate with their capability, not their loyalty or availability, is a core leadership responsibility. Based on our analysis, here are 3 targeted recommendations for practicing managers. Personality role fit in high-pressure teams. Use structured personality assessments, such as the Big 5 inventory, during team formation for high-stakes projects. Prioritize conscientiousness for execution roles, and ensure high neuroticism individuals have adequate psychological support before and during deployment. Just as Rake's effectiveness was hampered by unresolved grief, unmanaged emotional stress in key team members is a direct organizational risk. Build pre-crisis decision playbooks. Do not wait for a crisis to test your decision-making processes. Invest in tabletop exercises, crisis simulations, and boundary condition drills. This operationalizes bounded rationality. Your team will satisfy better when they have practiced satisficing in a safe environment. Invest in swift trust mechanisms. For temporary project teams and task forces, accelerate trust development through transparent role clarity, shared mission framing, and early low-stakes collaboration. Do not assume trust develops automatically. Design it deliberately. For human resource professionals, the lessons from Extraction 2 are equally instructive. Design anti-bias hiring systems. Standardize your interview and evaluation processes to reduce perceptual bias. Use structured behavioral interviews, blind resume screening where appropriate, and calibrated scoring rubrics. This addresses the fundamental attribution error and halo effect biases we observed through the film's characters. Build psychological safety frameworks. Tyler Rake operates with a deeply suppressed emotional history that eventually surfaces. HR must create environments where high-performing individuals feel safe to disclose psychological distress through employee assistance programs, EAPs, mental health leave policies, and destigmatization campaigns. In Malaysia's corporate sector, mental health remains significantly under-addressed, particularly in male-dominated industries. Succession planning for key team roles. Yaz's death exposes a critical gap. The team had no succession depth. In organizations, when a key person exits unexpectedly, whether through resignation, illness, or crisis, work should not collapse. HR must maintain bench strength through talent pipelines and cross-training programs. Finally, for government and public policy stakeholders, Extraction 2 offers a lens through which to examine 3 pressing governance challenges. Regulation of private security and special operations contracting. The film depicts an entirely unregulated private military operation. In reality, the growing use of private security contractors in conflict zones, resource extraction regions, and high-risk business environments demands clearer regulatory frameworks. The Malaysian government, particularly in the context of Petronas operations abroad, should develop comprehensive PSC, private security company oversight standards. Crisis leadership and national resilience frameworks. The bounded rationality demonstrated by Rake under fire is a model for how national crisis committees, such as Malaysia's National Security Council, NSC, should be structured. Decision protocols, pre-delegated authority, and practiced escalation pathways save lives in real disasters. Post-COVID, Malaysia should invest in institutionalizing these frameworks. Ethics legislation for high-risk industries. Extraction 2's ethical gray zones echo real-world challenges in industries where legal compliance is minimal, but moral complexity is maximum. The government should strengthen whistleblower protections, mandatory ethics training requirements, and anti-corruption infrastructure, particularly in the defense, extractives, and financial services sectors. Let us bring it all together. Extraction 2 is, on the surface, a pulse-pounding action film, but through the analytical lens of organizational behavior, it becomes something richer. A study in how personality shapes performance, how perception drives or distorts human judgment, how decision-making under pressure reveals both the brilliance and the limits of human cognition, how values and ethics define team identity and organizational culture, and how team dynamics, trust, roles, and conflict determine whether a mission succeeds or fails. The lessons of Tyler Rake are not confined to action movies or military operations. They belong in boardrooms, HR departments, government offices, and university classrooms.
Organizational behavior is the science of human performance, and human performance is always ultimately about people under pressure. Thank you for watching. I hope this analysis has been both insightful and engaging. Please do not forget to like, comment, and share, and feel free to leave questions in the comments below.